All right, so welcome back to another LEGO City update, or I guess in this case here, this is technically our first LEGO City update. In this video, we're gonna be talking about two updates that I've made so far in the LEGO City. The first one is more so on the back end side of building the LEGO City, which is organizing all of my LEGO pieces to more manageable bags rather than just having a giant bin full of unsorted LEGO. And the second one's actually we're gonna be removing all of my old sets from the Ziploc bags that you probably saw in my previous video when we had moved everything over to the new house, and go ahead and start placing the sets in the areas of the city that I would like to start working on. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into this video right away. And like always, if you do go on to enjoy this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and most importantly, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys want to see in future LEGO City update videos. And with all that, let's just jump into this right away. Okay, so the first update for this LEGO City is going through and actually organizing all of my pieces. Something that I talked about in my previous video is that when I moved over here, I had a lot of LEGO pieces basically that were just completely unsorted. I want to say a lot, it really isn't that much. It was only really one bin full. But I have to say, and the reason why I haven't had a chance to even upload new videos is because I've spent over the last, I want to say 4 weeks going through and sorting all of these LEGO pieces into multiple different bags. So that's honestly been my priority because I just feel like I can't really start building a LEGO City without actually having an opportunity to have pieces sorted in somewhat of a reasonable bag. And what we'll go through in this video is I'll kind of show you high level what I did for all of my pieces. As of right now, this works for me. And as time goes on, there is a 100% chance that we will be adapting and making this better. A big thing for me is making sure that I can store all these pieces in my current room. Containers weren't really the thing for me. I felt like using Ziploc bags would have been actually a lot easier, and I'll explain to you why I chose that in the end. And also on top of that, you'll notice that I didn't sort pieces based off of the exact brick type and color. I sorted more so just specifically on types of bricks, whether it's 1x1 bricks or 2x2 bricks. So let me give you a couple examples of basically what we've been able to do so far. In my drawer system right now, I've got kind of 3 primary drawers, 2 other secondary drawers underneath the black desk, but we're not really going to go into those as detailed because there's mostly just pieces that I'm not really going to use on a day-to-day basis. The main purpose of the first 3 drawers is more so to have all of my building materials. The way I systematically made up these drawers is basically the first drawer is all bricks, the second drawer is plates, and the third drawer is a combination of tiles, some modified bricks, and then also just more my cool pieces. So the third drawer you can consider more of an auxiliary drawer of just kind of a mix mash of everything. I guess the other thing I want to show off basically is why I actually really enjoy being able to keep these in a Ziploc bag for 2 reasons. Number one, you can kind of move the pieces around inside of a drawer. I felt like that was just easier than just dumping everything into a bin. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just felt like it was more organized and you just didn't have pieces all over the place. The other reason why too is because I found it's easier, you can handle it and you can kind of look and see where some of the pieces are. I know it might slow down your process. Obviously, it's better if you had every single individual piece laid out, but I don't have the space or the quantity to do that. So for right now, I'm kind of happy with it. You can kind of see all the different types of pieces. This bag specifically is all of 1x brick pieces. So it's anything from a 1x1 all the way up to I think the biggest one I had was a 1x12 or something crazy like that. So that's basically concludes the first drawer. It's mostly just brick build pieces. The second drawer, which ended up being plate pieces. At the same time too, I kind of applied the same system where it's I basically had anything that was over a minimum 3 brick width would be in one bag. Anything that's a 2 brick width would be in one bag, so any 2x plates. And then anything that's a 1x plate, same thing, would basically be stored into one of these kinds of bags. I did notice that I have a lot of bricks, I have a lot of plates, which I'm very happy about because it helps me with building a lot of the generalized main building materials for building my city in general, which I am happy about. But with that being said though, I do feel that where I really lack a lot of pieces is actually in the third drawer. So let's just talk about that right now. So when we get into the third drawer, it's like I was mentioning before, I've got a mixed bag of anything from Technic brick pieces to tile pieces to slope pieces to curve pieces, anything that's really in that range of stuff. And then I've also got kind of the side of the drawer, which is more so minifigure bags, vegetation, trees. I don't have a lot of that stuff, but it's just kind of enough to get me started. I feel like I definitely can see myself having to buy more of those items, especially if I want to have more decorations within the LEGO City. But there's kind of 2 things that I noticed right off the bat that I severely lacked in going through and organizing all these pieces. First one is any sort of tile pieces. These are the only bags that I have that are tiled pieces, and it's really not that much. You're talking about barely a bag full of 1x pieces. And now keep in mind though, I did separate out any 1x2 pieces, but even then it wasn't even that much. And these are all of the 2x bricks. And you'll notice that a lot of them are even have stickers on them or anything like that. So you can't really build that much stuff with it, which I was a little bit unfortunate about because I'm gonna have to eventually procure that. And you might notice in a lot of my builds, I might try to avoid putting tile pieces until the very last minute because it will be one of those things I will have to probably make an order for because I literally can't build any floors really or any sort of sidewalks or anything like that, which is a little bit unfortunate. But you know, I guess on the flip side, I do have enough bricks to build kind of everything else. The other thing too that I know is from a brick standpoint, which I'm severely lacking, is masonry bricks. This is all that I currently own that's free, and that is not that much. Everybody knows that masonry bricks are perfect for building any sort of texture or anything like that. And I think these are the nougat bricks. I always forget what these are called, but same thing here. You know, I've got a few that are some black ones. I got some brown ones. You know, there's nothing crazy going on here, and it's definitely one of those things where in the future we might end up having to procure more or anything like that. I will leave this on one final note. I do have I have a handful of other bags and old sets that I do plan on dismantling that will help with increasing the quantities for some of these pieces, but in general, I would say I've completed about easily 85% of all of the Lego that I've had unsorted. So the majority of it has been sorted. There is a few outliers just all over the house kind of thing that eventually I will dismantle, but this is basically the situation. I am not at all mad. I think it's a great start. I didn't realize the lack of plates I had. That was something that really caught me by surprise, but I think at the end of the day, like my biggest goal for this city is building a lot of my, you know, mocks with the pieces that I have. And it's not going to be perfect, but what we're going to really try and do is push the boundaries and utilize all of my pieces. And this is something I'll probably talk about a lot on this channel, is like, I don't want to just have dead load of Lego pieces. I want to utilize them to the maximum possibility. I'm not saying I'm going to be able to use all of them, but I want to be pushing the boundary of like what I can create with what I have, and really keep a minimal, call it like a sunken cost of Lego pieces that I'm not really able to use. If I feel like if I can't put it into the city, it's just kind of sitting there doing nothing. So it will be a challenge, but you know, that's okay. That's why we're here to build a city, and you know, we're not in no rush to build this. We're going to build it to how I want to build it and go from there. To part two of this video, which is basically, let's talk about the city behind me. You'll notice that I don't really have any plastic bags anymore that are just sitting all over the place, or Ziploc bags. So we're going to talk about just kind of two main things. Number one is the primary focus right now, what we're going to be building on for maybe the next few videos, and then kind of the secondaries that I won't be starting right now, but it is planned for the future. And some of the stuff might be a little bit repetitive from what I said in my previous video, but I feel like right now it's kind of, you know, we're narrowing down that scope, which is what I really like. All right, so first things first is kind of, we want to focus on the corner of the bookshelf. As you can see directly behind me right there, our focus is those three corners of the bookshelf. So let's talk about this. On the bottom level, we've got some modular buildings. This was going to stay as modular buildings. I have three other modular buildings that I still plan on building. That includes like the Assembly Square, the Boutique Hotel, as well as the police station. So we will eventually be adding those as time goes on. I don't want to build them all at once. I would like to just kind of slowly bring them in. I feel like if I overwhelm myself and just have all of this right at the same time, you know, I want to have a lot more flexibility with this. I don't want to just feel like I have to stuff all my modular buildings there at once. So right off the bat, the bottom corner at least is going to be modular. To the left-hand side, where I've kind of added like half of like the bookstore, is also going to stay as modular. So basically the lower level will stay as modular buildings for right now, at least. The second level, which is where my first kind of main custom mock is going to really start, is the construction site. Now, right now I do have a decent amount of vehicles. I've got a loader, I've got a roller, I've got even a bulldozer, like one of the old ones, the concrete truck. I've even got an excavator that's going to be coming into play soon. I've got a crane and all that stuff. So I think the main thing here is that I don't see myself keeping all of those construction vehicles. A big thing for me is probably going ahead and building like the last of the construction vehicles. Like for me, I really want to have the excavator involved in there. I don't know how much I'm going to keep for the vehicles, but my goal is to make that whole shelf basically like a construction site. I think that would be something that's really interesting. So what I'm thinking of doing is maybe showing like a skyscraper that's maybe being slowly built out of the ground. Obviously, like I can't really show the foundation to a certain extent, but we're going to see how we want to do it. But it's going to be basically like a complete mayhem mock of just like what a construction site would look like. That is my initial plan for that area. And my goal is to basically create like different types of themes as we kind of go on to each shelf. Which brings us to the third shelf. The third shelf is going to be a combination of a winter village and an Arctic area. I've got I think it's the first versions of the Arctic Expedition set. I know they've been re-releasing more of it in Lego City sets right now, but I have the very first one. So I want to try to make some sort of like base, almost as if they're like, you know, looking for Santa's village and all that stuff there. One thing I will say though is like, I've mentioned this in multiple videos, I'm a huge hockey fan. I'm going to probably make a small frozen lake for people to skate on, because the main reason is I want to save the hockey rink for when I build my big stadium podium in the middle of the table. I do have some current existing Winter Village style shops, so I might be dismantling some. I might recreate and create a newer version of the building, or a lot of times what I might do is remix it, is what I'm going to call it, where it's like I take what's currently there and I just kind of maybe I combine a couple things, I modify it, right? Something that I feel like that would look really nice. That's what you can expect on that third shelf there. If you move over to the right hand side of the bookshelf, for right now we're going to just kind of keep that open for whether I'm just going to like leave some sets there just for fun for display. I don't really know what I necessarily want to do there. Originally I had the top shelf as an idea of building a farm because I do have some decent farming equipment, but I'm not totally sure if I want to jump into that right away. I might want to save a couple more spaces for like different types of modular buildings or anything like that. Also, I just realized I made a mistake. The construction site's on the third shelf and the Winter Village is on the fourth shelf. The second shelf is actually the residential area. So this area is going to be really cool because my goal is actually to try and create a model of my house that I am in right now, and that'll be one of the houses. I might also dismantle one of the houses and kind of rejig it and make it better. I would actually also like to put the gas station into that area as well and rebuild that one a little bit smaller. That would be the only one of the areas where I will actually consider keeping a road. I feel like having a road that goes just in front of the perimeter and then go, and I might just tie it right into the gas station, I think would look kind of cool. So again, I don't have that much space, and that's something I'm going to talk about later on. I don't want to be having a lot of roads in my city, so it's going to be a lot more walking room, buildings closer together, like tight downtown in that sense there. So that concludes the primary focus, which is basically the downtown core base area, the residential area, the construction site, and the Arctic Village. When it comes to secondary priorities, this goes into the very, very top shelf, which you can see up top here. I've got an airplane there. I've considered making that entire top row an airport. I don't know if I'm actually going to end up going ahead with that, but for right now, that's one of my ideas. Where you can see the Saturn V rocket just over there, I'm considering basically either making more of an industrial NASA style center. I have a really nice mayor's train that I'd love to include into my city, so that is another idea as a secondary expansion, but as of right now, we're probably just going to focus on those corner bits of the shelf. And then again, for the main black desk area in the middle here, the centerpiece will end up being that hockey rink. I have not designed it whatsoever, so as of right now, we are not really going to be focusing on that. You might see that desk come in and out. It's not attached to my cabinet by any chance, so that is just more so for the future. So what we're going to really focus on right now is not building on the black desk, is more so building onto the bookshelves, and then building onto potentially maybe even adding an extra shelf where the Saturn V rocket is right now to give ourselves more space. And then once we are completed in that area, then we might slowly move into building specific things for the black desk. Now that doesn't mean we won't be using the black desk for certain things. Like one thing that I do really want to do is build a train, or have a train that goes around whether the industrial area into the black desk close to the city. I would rather have a train than vehicles. And then that's the kind of the last thing I'll say is like vehicles will be very, very limited to my city. They take up way too much space. I want to dedicate that space to building something original, cool walking paths, anything like that, or dedicate it to a train. I feel like that would be more valuable for that space. So yeah, that concludes episode 1 of my Lego City update. If you did go on to enjoy this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and most importantly, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys want to see in this Lego City. If you guys have any ideas, definitely throw them down into the comments, and I'll definitely check them out and consider them as best as I can. And yeah, with all that, I will see you guys next time for a brand new video.